The night I learned the truth about my neighbor, my entire understanding of life, love, and quiet suffering changed forever. For 3 years I had lived next door to a woman who seemed ordinary, almost invisible to the world around her. She left early every morning, returned late in the evening, and rarely spoke to anyone in the neighborhood. Most people simply called her the quiet doctor. But one rainy evening, when fate pushed our paths together in the most unexpected way, she told me something that made my heart stop. Something that made me see not only her life but my own in a completely different light. Before we continue, take a quick moment. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of human compassion, please like this video, share it with someone who needs a little hope today, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that the smallest moments can change lives forever. My name is Nathaniel Carter, and at the time this happened, I lived in a quiet neighborhood just outside Portland, Oregon. It was the kind of place where kids rode bicycles until sunset, and neighbors waved politely but rarely knew much about each other's lives. The woman next door was named Victoria Hayes. She was in her early 40s, always dressed neatly, always walking quickly, and always carrying the quiet exhaustion of someone who carried invisible weight on her shoulders. I later learned she was a gynecologist at one of the largest hospitals in the city. At the time, all I knew was that she worked long hours and never seemed to smile. Our interactions were limited to brief greetings while taking out trash or collecting mail. Sometimes I noticed the porch light at her house stayed on well past midnight. Sometimes her car arrived after 2 in the morning. Sometimes she looked so tired that I wondered how anyone could live like that. But I never asked. Life has a strange way of keeping strangers separate until the exact moment they're meant to collide. That moment came during a heavy autumn storm. The wind was fierce that night, bending tree branches and rattling windows. Around 10 o'clock, the power went out across the entire street. Darkness swallowed the neighborhood, leaving only the sound of rain hitting rooftops and distant thunder rolling through the sky. I stepped outside with a flashlight to check the circuit breaker in the garage when I noticed a dim light glowing from Victoria's house. Curious, I walked closer and saw her sitting on the front porch steps, wrapped in a blanket, holding a small lantern. Her posture was slumped, her shoulders heavy. For the first time in years of living next to her, she looked fragile. I hesitated before walking over, unsure if I should interrupt. But something about the quiet sadness in her eyes made it impossible to ignore. We sat there in the dark, listening to the rain. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she said something I never expected. She told me she was tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep could fix. The kind of tired that lived deep in a person's soul. At first, I didn't understand what she meant. After all, she was a respected doctor, successful, intelligent, helping people every single day. From the outside, her life seemed meaningful and accomplished. But that's when she told me the truth about what her job really looked like. She explained that every week she met women who were scared, alone, or carrying pain they had never shared with anyone. She delivered babies into joyful families, but she also delivered devastating news to mothers who lost pregnancies. She treated women who had endured abuse, illness, infertility, and heartbreak, and every single day she had to be strong for them. What people never saw, she told me, was how those stories followed her home. She carried them like invisible luggage. Then she said something that completely stunned me. She told me that the hardest part of her job wasn't the medical challenges. It was watching how many women believed they were alone in their suffering. She said that most of the patients she treated had never told anyone their fears or struggles before stepping into her office. They hid their pain behind normal lives, smiling in public while silently carrying burdens that would break most people. Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke. And for the first time I realized something deeper. Victoria wasn't just talking about her patients, she was talking about herself. She confessed that despite spending her entire life helping others bring children into the world, she had never had a family of her own. Years earlier, while she was still in medical training, she had suffered a medical condition that made it impossible for her to have children. While she delivered thousands of babies for other parents, she quietly mourned the one dream she could never have. The irony of it had shaped her entire life, helping others experience joy while silently grieving her own loss. Rain continued falling around us, the soft rhythm echoing in the quiet street. In the dim glow of the lantern, I could see tears glistening in her eyes, though she tried to hide them. She told me that most people assumed doctors were strong, confident, and emotionally untouchable. But the truth was that some of the people who spend their lives healing others are the ones who need the most compassion themselves. That night changed something inside me. Until then, I had lived my life in a comfortable routine, rarely thinking about the hidden struggles of the people around me. I had assumed that if someone appeared successful or stable, their life must be easy. Victoria showed me how wrong that assumption was. Over the following weeks, something surprising happened. We started talking more often. Short conversations turned into evening walks. Quiet greetings turned into shared stories about life, regrets, and hopes we had both buried under years of routine. Slowly, the quiet doctor next door became a friend. And the more I learned about her life, the more I realized how extraordinary she truly was. Despite her personal pain, she had chosen a profession dedicated to bringing life, hope, and healing to others. She had spent decades comforting strangers during their most vulnerable moments, even while carrying her own silent heartbreak. Her strength wasn't loud. It was quiet, patient, and deeply human. Months later, during one of our evening walks, she told me something that stayed with me forever. She said that the greatest lesson her career had taught her was this: every person you meet is fighting a battle you can't see. Kindness, she said, isn't just a nice gesture. Sometimes it's the one thing holding someone together. If this story is touching your heart so far, take a moment right now and comment the word kindness below. It helps spread messages like this to more people who might need them. Life moved forward after that night, but my perspective never returned to what it once was. I began paying closer attention to the people around me. The cashier who looked exhausted, the neighbor who always walked alone, the coworker who seemed distant. Behind every ordinary face, there might be a story just waiting for someone to care enough to listen. And Victoria? She slowly began to smile more. The quiet doctor who once seemed invisible in the neighborhood became someone people started noticing. Not because she demanded attention, but because her warmth quietly radiated into the lives around her. One simple conversation during a storm had opened the door to something beautiful, understanding. Before this story ends, I want to ask you something from the heart. If this story reminded you how important compassion and listening can be, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who might need encouragement today, and subscribe for more stories that remind us what truly matters. Because sometimes the most powerful truths don't come from dramatic moments. Sometimes they come from a quiet neighbor, sitting on a porch, finally telling someone how heavy their heart has been all along. And sometimes, just listening can change everything.